The Lord thy God is in the midst of thee, is mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest his love. He will joy over thee with singing. Zephaniah 3:17. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Proverbs 31, woman in the making. Late night story time with Thea Nana and her daughter Zephaniah. Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, an African Tale. That's a pretty picture. A long time ago, in a certain place in Africa, a small village lay across a river and half a day's journey from a city where a king lived. A man named Mufario lived in this village with his two daughters, who were called Manaria and Naisha. Everyone agreed that Manaria and Naisha were very beautiful. Manaria was almost always in a bad temper. She teased her sister whenever their father's back was turned, and she had been heard to say, "Someday Naisha and I will be queen, and you will be my servant in my household." If that should come to pass, Naisha responded, "I will be pleased to serve you. But why do you say such a thing? You are clever and strong and beautiful. What? Why are you so unhappy?" "Because everyone talks about how kind you are, and they praise everything you do," Manaria replied. "I'm certain that Father loves you best. But when I'm queen, everyone would know that your silly kindness is only weakness." Now that shows a lot of jealousy there. Let's find out the outcome of jealousy. Naisha was sad that Manaria felt this way, but she ignored her sister's words and went about her chores. Naisha kept a small plot of land on which she grew millet, sunflowers, yams, and vegetables. She always sang as she worked, and some said it was her singing that made her crops more bountiful than anyone else's. One day, Naisha noticed a small garden snake resting beneath a yam vine. "Good day, little Nyok," she called him. "You are welcome here. You will keep away any creatures who might spoil my vegetables." She bent forward, gave the little snake a loving pat on the head, and then returned to her work. From that day on, Nyok was always at Naisha's side when she tended her garden. It was said that she sang all the more sweetly when he was there. Mufaro knew nothing of how Manaria treated Naisha. Naisha was too considerate and her father's feelings to complain, and Manaria was always careful to behave herself when Mufario was around. Early one, mor- Early one morning, a messenger from the city arrived. The great king wanted a wife. The most worthy and beautiful daughters in the land are invited to appear before the king, and he will choose one to become queen, the messenger proclaimed. Mufario called Manaria and Naisha to him. "It would be a great honor to have one of you chosen," he said. "Prepare yourselves to journey to the city. I will call together all our friends to make a wedding party. We will leave tomorrow as the sun rises. But my father, Manaria said sweetly, it would be painful for either of us to leave you, even to be wife to the king. I know Naisha would grieve to death if she were parted from you. I'm strong. Send me to the city and let poor Naisha be happy here with you. Mafario beamed with pride. The king has asked for the most worthy and the most beautiful. No, Manaria, I cannot send you alone. Only a king can choose between two such worthy daughters. Both of you must go. Sound like someone just wanted to get all the glory. So that night, when everyone was asleep, Manaria stole quietly out of the village. She had never been in the forest at night before, and she was frightened. But her greed to be the first to appear before the king drove her on. In her hurry, she almost stumbled over a small boy, who suddenly just appeared standing in the path. Please, said the boy, I'm hungry. Will you give me something to eat? I have brought only enough for me, Manaria replied. But please, said the boy, I'm so very hungry. Out of my way, boy. Tomorrow I will become your queen. How dare you stand in my path? After traveling for what seemed to be great distance, Manaria came to a small clearing. There she went against the moonlight. Was an old woman seated on a large stone. The old woman spoke. I will give you some advice, Manaria. Soon after you pass the place who and where two paths cross, you will see a grove of trees. They will laugh at you. You must not laugh in return. Later you will meet a man with his head under his arm. You must be polite to him. How do you know my name? How dare you advise your future queen? Stand aside, you ugly old woman, Manaria scrolled, and then rushed on her way without looking back. Just as the old woman had foretold, Manaria came to the grove of trees, and they did indeed seem to be laughing at her. I must be calm, Manaria thought. I would not be frightened. She looked up at the trees and laughed out loud. I laugh at you, trees, she shouted, and she hurried on. It was not yet dawn when Manaria heard the sound of rushing water. The river must be up ahead, she thought. The great city is just on the other side. But there, on the rise, she saw a man with his head tucked under his arm. Manaria ran past him without speaking. A queen acknowledges only those who please her, she said to herself. I will be queen. I will be queen, she chanted as she hurried on toward the city. There's the old lady. And there she. Naisha woke at the first light of dawn. As she put on her finest garments, she thought how her life might be changed forever beyond this day. I much prefer to live here, she admitted to herself. I'd hate to leave this village and never see my father or sing to little Naoka again. Her thoughts were interpreted and interrupted by loud shouts and commotion from the wedding party assembled outside. Manaria was missing. Everyone bustled about, searching and calling for her. When they found her footprints on the path that she led to the city, they decided to go on as planned. As the wedding party moved through the forest, brightly and plumed birds darted about in the cool green shadows beneath the trees. Though anxious about her sister, Naisha was soon filled with excitement about all there was to see. They were deep in the forest when she saw the small boy standing by the side of the path. "You must be hungry," she said, and handed him a yam she had brought for her lunch. The boy smiled and disappeared as quietly as he had came. Later, as they were approaching the place where the two paths crossed, the old woman appeared and silently pointed the way to the city. Naisha thanked her and gave her a small pouch filled with sunflower seeds. The sun was high in the sky when the party came to the grove of towering trees. Their uppermost branches seemed to bow down to Naisha as she passed beneath them. At last, someone announced that they were near the destination. Naisha ran ahead and topped the rise before the others could catch up with her. She stood and transfixed at her first sight of the city. "Oh, my father," she called. "A great spirit must stand guard here. Just look at what lies before us. I never in all my life dreamed there could be anything so beautiful." Arm in arm, Naisha and her father descended the hill, crossed the river, and approached the city gate. Just as they entered through the great doors, the air was rent by piercing cries, and Manaria ran wildly out of the chamber at the center of the enclosure. When she saw Naisha, she fell upon her, sobbing. "Do not go to the king, my sister. Oh, please, father, do not let her go," she cried hysterically. "There's a great monster there, a snake with 5 heads," he said, that he knew all my faults and that I displeased him. He would have swallowed me alive if I had not run. Oh, my sister, please do not go inside that place." And it frightened Naisha to see her sister so upset, but leaving her father to comfort Manaria, she bravely made her way to the chamber and opened the door. On the seat of the great chief's stool lay a little garden snake. Naisha laughed with great relief and joy. "My little friend," she exclaimed, "it's such a great pleasure to see you, but why are you here?" "I am the king," Nyoka replied. And there before Naisha's eyes the garden snake changed shape. So she was being watched all that time. "I am the king. I am also the hungry boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest, the old woman to whom you made a great gift of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nyoka, because I have been all of those in all of these. I know you to be the most worthy and most beautiful daughter in the land. It would make me very happy if you would be my wife." And it was that, a long time ago, Naisha agreed to be married. the king's mother and sisters took Naisha to their house. At the wedding, preparations began, and the best weavers in the land laid on their finest clothes for her wedding garments. Villagers from all around were invited to the celebration, and a great feast was held. Naisha prepared the bread for the wedding feast from millet that had been brought from her village. Mufaro proclaimed to all who would hear him that he was the happiest father in the land, for he was blessed with two beautiful and worthy daughters, Naisha the queen and Manaria the servant, in the queen's household. So you see who became the servant was the one that was jealous and mean. Now she has to learn to be humble. And here are the beautiful sisters. The end. Hope you enjoyed. My daughter enjoyed. Good night.